Could you,
Sorry.
thank you. George, if you could take down the agenda so I could see the full screen of participants. So, thanks to everyone for being here. I'll try to call on people in the order that they showed up. So we'll go with Deborah Livingston, Margaret Garland, and then I don't want to murder her name, but it's Vara Bradmore. So in that,
Perfect. Yeah.
Deborah, Margaret,
Hi.
Vara, 2 minutes, Deborah. So give your
Hi.
name, your
I'm from
branch.
Tucson. Can you hear me?
Yes, your name, your branch,
Okay,
and what's going on in your world.
Great. Good to see everybody. I'm Deb Livingston from Tucson, Arizona, Brant. We just had our monthly meeting last Thursday. And this weekend I went to the closest school of the Americas Watch program down in Nogales on the border against the impunity that the Border Patrol seems to have, killing people on the border. And it was a 2-day event. I only attended for the Saturday portion, the march to the wall and the great rally that they had there afterwards, and a wonderful dinner up at a gallery up on the hill in Nogales. And today is Indigenous Peoples Day, so I'll be attending the event at the Global Justice Center here in Tucson. And that's about it for my world right now.
2
Thank you.
minutes exactly.
Margaret, you're next. Margaret Garland, you're next. Well, we'll come back to Margaret.
Hi,
Okay.
everybody. I could not unmute, so I finally got it unmuted. And this is my first meeting to be at Women's International League for Peace and Freedom and the death penalty action. I've just moved to Seattle, Washington, and I've just now getting my feet under me with getting an apartment, getting a job, and now I'm getting ready to get into work with social justice issues. So this is my first meeting, and I'm very interested in ending the death penalty and in all the work that that Women's International League for Peace and Freedom does. So that's it. That's it for me, everybody. This is Amber. I moved to Seattle, Washington from St. Paul, Minnesota.
So you go by Amber or
Yes,
Margaret?
I go by Amber. My middle name is Amber. My first name is
Amber.
Margaret. Yes.
Everybody mute yourself who's not Margaret. Margaret, let me ask you this since you were so quick. We did have a branch in Seattle and the branch kind of aged out. Are you in touch with any of the people in Seattle? I believe Dorothy, who used to be our Poor People's Campaign liaison, she's in Seattle. Do you know her?
No, I do not. I've contacted some Green Party members, and I've started working on gathering signatures for single payer healthcare to work on that issue. But basically connecting with Green Party members is all I've done. Is Sherry Honkala with the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Coalition? Is that?
No, Sherry Honkala, I know her well. She's
okay.
Philly, but the Poor People's Campaign that's run by Reverend Barber and
okay.
Minister is different.
Okay.
What Sherry has been doing has been around a lot longer than this current Poor People's Campaign. But since you didn't take your whole 2 minutes, I wanted to just ask you a few more questions about
Oh,
you.
oh, sure, go ahead.
But now we'll go with Isvara. So Isvara, you're next,
Hello.
and then we'll
Yes.
go with Donna, Cece, and Robin. Isvara.
Hello. Um, I'm extremely interested in the theme of death penalty because I'm from Chile. And in 1973, we had the most brutal military coup organized by Henry Kissinger from this country. And one of my dear friends was executed at age 30 by the military government for thinking socialist thoughts. So I have been working on the theme of political prisoners ever since then all over the world, no matter what their tendencies are. I think people shouldn't be incarcerated and eliminated because of the way they think. And yesterday I participated in a rally downtown Palo Alto organized by the residents of a senior or a house in Palo Alto that are members of Amnesty International. And the theme was end the death penalty because they were observing the anniversary of certain things. And also they had the support yesterday of Raging Grannies that went there to perform. And the gathering was small in a small corner piazza that there is in Palo Alto, but it was very effective. And the main speaker, I can't remember his name, was very, very articulate in explaining the savageness of this idea of killing people, no matter what mistakes they have made. They should never be condemned to death. I mean, killing people doesn't solve any problems, and they. So this is why I'm here. I don't remember how I got the notice of this meeting. I don't. Maybe it was through Wilf or something. In one of the items, they said there will be this meeting, and frankly, I expected that this was going to be a huge thing of 200 or 300 people, and I came to learn. So I'm very moved that this is such an intimate, small activity group. And I see faces that I see in the, like Joan Goddard and Robin Lloyd, and I see them in the
You're at
meetings
time,
sometimes
Isvara.
on different things. And yeah, thank you.
Isvara. George is falling down on the job here. She's
You
supposed
couldn't
to
hear
give-
me? Am I muted? I just mentioned that you were at
George,
time.
George, you're supposed to put up the one finger when they have 1 minute left.
Okay,
So we go with Donna, Cece, and Robin. So Donna, your 2 minutes, then Cece, then Robin. Thank
Hello
you.
there. I'm on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, the land of the Wampanoag Native Americans, celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day today. Our season's turning. I've been, our little branch here on Cape Cod has been shrinking. We had a real nice party at the lake saying goodbye to a member moving to Portland, Oregon, who hopes there will be a branch there for her to join in with. And I'm involved in putting together a meeting, a large program at the Harwich Community Center where we can attract new members. We have an awful lot of people moving to Cape Cod into what was going to be their retirement cottages, or they can work from home now. So we've got a lot more younger people moving into this, and we need more people in our branch to to get into these issues and help us work with this. So I'm going to be attending the meeting Wednesday night with Jan Cordeman, and that's what we're dealing with, aging out, and we have a very, very expensive housing issue, and we lose a lot of our younger people who can't make enough money working to live here on the Cape. So that's where we are. And I've been having some skin cancer issues because I was a lifeguard years ago. So I'm having a little more on my ear nipped off. I look like I had a chipmunk kind of nip my ear, but they're going to be doing some light treatments on things that can be helped. And I've also been having a little bit of spinal stenosis problems. So I'm doing my exercises, and I'm revving up to keep going. And glad to be here today, always.
Well, you look great. Like I told you, I love you in your pink today. So CC, unmute yourself, CC, and talk to us.
Thank you so much and good afternoon. I've been in Tennessee, Knoxville with the Highlander the past couple of weeks ago. Just getting back acclimated. I was very informative. They're very chilly up in the mountains. This was the 90th anniversary. And also the thing was there's a New World Coming program and schedule. And also, Teresa, they had a great roundtable discussion concerning Fannie Lou Hamer's documentary. I see that at the table, the testimony from her. And it was really re-enlightening. And I thought about you and the Columbus branch there. Also here in Atlanta, we are getting out to vote. Everybody get out to vote. Early voting is coming as well. We must make a difference in our city, in our state, with this Senate race and this governor. Everything depends on us getting out to vote. Thank you, George. I see your hand.
Well, you have 1 minute, CC. So what else you want to end with? If you could tell us a little bit about what's going on with WAND. Is Georgia WAND still alive, or did it go away with National WAND?
National WAND is gone temporarily, I hope, but Georgia WAND is still up and going strong. We're getting out the vote as well. We are going to Savannah Riverside with the issues with our water testing and the nuclear plant. And I failed to mention about Georgia Power is trying to, the Southern companies trying to raise our rates again, and they are behind schedule again. And this is very upsetting to all of us, pretty much me, with my bill already too high, and those indigenous and poor people who are in the Waynesboro Shell Bluff area where the plant Vogel is located. It's taking advantage of us, I think.
No question about it. I'm glad to know WAND is still in the mix, because we're going to shut down those nuclear power plants.
Yeah.
So Robin Lloyd, on you, sister. After that great meeting we had last month with the Vermont folks, I've been talking about it for a month. Go ahead, Robin, what's going on a personal level, because you'll get a chance to do an update about Vermont later in the agenda.
Sure. Well, I took part in the Women's March sponsored by Emerge. Is anyone else involved in that? I guess it's kind of a Democratic Party thing, but it's about reproductive rights. And there were 5 of us from WILF, and because we had signed up, that gave us 2 minutes to talk. And so I tried to connect the reproductive rights with the crisis in Ukraine and the fact that Ukrainian women where abortion is permitted, but you know, things are in chaos in half the country. And those who flee to Poland, it's a very Republican, very conservative area. So war is not good for women or children or even for men. So I sort of segued from reproductive rights to peace in Ukraine. The other thing to talk about, I forget. Oh, yeah. So preparing on Friday to be at our congressional offices about, this is through Diffuse, is calling all the groups to protest the war and call for peace. So I'm there working on that as well.
Oh, thank you, Robin. Now we'll go with Mary Foster, Joan Goddard, and George, and then I'll go last. Mary
morning.
Foster.
Good morning. I'm actually, I left work to attend this meeting, so I have very limited time right now. I'm in Santa Barbara, California. Our branch aged out, and I was trying to get a hold of Nuri in Ojai, but I haven't been able to reach Nuri, and I'm thinking of starting a new branch, but working with Healing Justice and another group of folks with disabilities. So anyway, this caught my eye, and I'm interested in this topic. And for a while, I was following Brian Stevenson's work. And I don't know if anyone else is familiar with Brian Stevenson's work, but I haven't heard any updates on what's happening with Brian. But anyway, that's basically it for now. Thank you.
Mary, are you in Santa Barbara? I don't know why I thought you were in Arizona. Oh, you've always been in Santa Barbara, California.
Yes.
I love Santa Barbara. I was there a few years ago with all those historic places and how powerful the Catholic Church is there. I would love to visit again. It's a lot of rich people in Santa Barbara. Are you one?
Yes. No, I work for rich people though. I'm a caregiver. And for over 20 years.
Thank you. Great to see you, Mary, because we had corresponded over a couple of years. Let's see. I'm in the San Jose organization, that's the way it works here. What I wanted to mention, and I probably won't take the full 2 minutes, but that's fine. I wanted to mention a book that I've been reading, and I have not been doing a lot of other things. I just celebrated my 80th birthday a couple months ago, and I'm slowing down here, folks. That's for sure. Yeah. Between the pandemic and age and so on, I'm going to have a stress test as far as my heart that the doctor ordered, which probably is unnecessary, but it'll be a good check. But stress tests sound pretty amazingly weird. But anyway, what I wanted to mention is a book that I've been reading called Mississippi Reckoning. And it starts out with a frustrated attempt to stop the death penalty with a man who clearly did kill someone. It's not a case of a wrong, judgment by the court or the jury or whatever, but it's the attorney is trying to get a life sentence instead of, and he worked on it over a long period of time. And the book starts out with the very descriptive killing of him. And then it goes into the background of this attorney who was in Mississippi for the um, uh, voting work way back in the 60s. And so I haven't finished it yet, but it has a lot of information, and then he goes back and forth with the death penalty information too. So thank you very much.
Could you say the name of the
Right.
book again?
Oh, the Mississippi Reckoning,
Mhm.
Reckoning, and the author's name is Zimmerman. So at least the name, Mississippi Reckoning by Zimmerman.
Well, thank you, Joan. So George, you're next, and then I'll go. Come on.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. George Friday here in the Southern Piedmont branch in North Carolina. I'm well. I missed what Isvara's branch is. I was going to ask her, but she's off camera. I had a great weekend celebrating a friend's 60th birthday with her family. We're in a co-ed fraternity, so besides her brother and sister and her daughter and her son-in-law, it was just those of us who are in a fraternity of 2 other friends of ours, and that was really fun. But the most exciting thing for them, these are not people who are political at all, y'all. One of the people, her brother, who I've known since he was 9 years old, he is 54, and his son, who is 20, hiked the Appalachian Trail, 2,000 miles, walking from starting in Georgia, ending in like Maine or someplace. It's crazy. It took them months and months, but it was great to hear about all the stories that they, all their adventures. That's it for me.
Well, I love the way George has such a balanced life. She does have friends, and she does do real human things. Thank you, George, for sharing that. Well, I am known for my workaholism. Teresa Elamine, Fannie Lou Hamer Branch, Columbus, Georgia, home of Fort Benning, and because it's named after a Confederate soldier, the name is changing, and it's going to become Fort Moore. It's named after a soldier who was a wonderful family man who contributed a lot to the Columbus community, and he's buried in the cemetery at Fort Benning. And so they will name Fort Benning home of the School of Americas and WINSEC after this wonderful give back community soldier. And there are plenty of them like that, by the way, here in Columbus, Fort Benning, in spite of it having WINSEC and the School of Americas. It produces quite a few public servants from there. Now, my work in Columbus is primarily with women and their children who live in high poverty areas, mostly public housing. And today we had the most fabulous meeting at a public housing community. We're getting ready for a real showdown with the elections. So we have these partnerships in the community, the NAACP, the Urban League, and lots of other organizations, including the Southern Anti-Racism Network. So an organization in Atlanta gave the Southern Anti-Racism Network $3,000 to organize 2 meetings about getting fair funding for education. So they gave us $3,000, and they said you got to spend it by the end of October. And I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it is, but I'm able to pay 4 women $300 each. I bought Dunkin' donuts and sandwiches this morning for $100. We got a big discount. I'm just enjoying it. So 4 people came from the community who aren't with the sponsoring organizations. And I was able to give them $20 each for just showing up at the meeting. I had $200 that I was going to give out to people in public housing for just showing up to the meeting. And I thought maybe 20 people would show up, but the people who showed up from the low income sector were only 4, and I'm already paying several women the $300 a month. So I'm having a great time spending a rich organization out of Atlanta. CC, you probably know them, the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute. We're one of their partners with Fund Georgia's Future, which is about education funding. And so that's who I'm working with over the next month. And it's great to be able to pay people to get people to meetings. So that's a good time I'm having right now. So there's an 11 person who joined us. So Diane Blay, you're going to be the last person on the check-in. So we're introducing ourselves, what our branch is, and we're also saying a couple of minutes of what's going on a personal level in our world, because we have another space on the agenda to talk about the committee work, since we didn't have a heavy agenda today. So Diane Blay, our Madam Secretary of the National Board, I've just called you out, so please introduce yourself. Doesn't she look great in all her books and everything?
So hi, everyone. Sorry I'm late. Yeah, it's hard. I need to set a timer on the day because I got a phone call. And anyway, what's in my world? I'm working on minutes from the disarm meeting last night. So at least I'm trying to get to them. Let me put it that way. So, and I'm recovering from COVID. But I mean, it's been an easy recovery. So, but I'm still testing positive.
Well, you look great.
Thanks.
So let me ask you this, because we were giving people 2 minutes, but you haven't, you had your shots and stuff?
Oh, yes, the 2 boosters, 2 shots. Sorry, let me just check that out. Yeah, I just didn't have the 3rd booster, but my husband got it when he found out I had COVID. So
3rd? Is there a
the
3rd?
3rd, yeah, there's the 3rd one. People, if you're 65 or older, you can get, I believe, the 3rd booster.
But you're not 65, are you?
Oh, yeah, I am.
Oh, wow. Well, nature has been kind. I never thought you were 60.
Oh,
This is
sweet.
great. Well, you look great for a person with COVID, so it's a mild thing.
Oh, yeah. My cold I had last month was much worse than the COVID. But it looked like Joan Goddard had her 3rd shot, right, Joan? Did you have your 3rd? Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, I think we should all get them if they're available. They're supposed to protect you from all variations, so.
Well, when I took my first shot last July, it was discovered that I'm allergic. So it put me in the hospital, drove my diabetes out of whack. And all my doctors say, do not take the 2nd shot. So it's a rare thing, but some people are actually allergic. Well, I'm glad you're doing fine, but I stay away. I wear my mask everywhere in public because I can't get the COVID. It would be really devastating.
Yeah, I wear masks in public too, but I was at my brother's house. My 3 brothers reunited, and so I didn't think of being careful in his house, and that's where I caught it from my sister-in-law, who didn't know she had it. So,
wow.
yeah.
Well, George, you're helping me out, George. So put up the agenda so we see what else is going on. By the way, the thing that George and I didn't say is that we're the co-conveners of this subcommittee, ending mass incarceration and the death penalty. So George, you're going to share information about Michigan. So after that, we'll have updates from everyone, and we're right at about 2:40-ish. So we have time. George, if you could take about 3 minutes to give the update about Michigan, because Odile had said she would do that, but we haven't been able to reach Odile for a few weeks. So I thought she was back from France, but it's unclear. So George, if you could say what the Michigan numbers are, and we'll double back around to Odile down the road.
All right then. So the overall population numbers in Michigan, and these are 2020 numbers. 79% of the population is white. 14.1% of the population is Black African American. 0.7% are Native American or Alaskan Native, and 3.4% are identified as Asian, with no more specifics than that. And I just Googled some stats, so I don't have what I would call a robust report. Michigan has an incarceration rate of 599 per 100,000 people. And else here, let's see. I'm going to show this on the screen. It's, I think, also 2020, but it's an interesting visual. Let me get to the shared screen. Right. So this number shows 64,000 Michigan residents that are locked up in various kinds of prisons. State prisons show 40,000, local jails 17,000, federal prison 5,600. And I just wanted y'all to see that visual. So there's one more stat that I think I dug up to share. And what is that? Oh, this is interesting and actually not surprising. When I tried to find the stats for incarceration rate by race, you have to dig really far. I could not find it in the little bit of time I had to prepare before this meeting. You just get a bunch of, clearly they're trying to obscure that information, is what I wanted to share more than anything else. And last statement is, Michigan is the only state, according to what I found today, that has abolished the death penalty. California might be close behind. And that happened in 1962 is when they did that. Michigan is the only state in the union whose constitution bans the death penalty. That's all I have there.
George, could you repeat the overall population of the state?
Yes, let me go back to that.
Because
Okay. Make the overall population. This is July 1, 2021. 10,050,811.
well, just hearing the numbers of how many people are in state prisons and jails, it seems a relatively low incarceration rate based on how big the state is. So the tendency to incarcerate people of color, particularly Black people, I bet a significant number of the people who are incarcerated are not part of the 79%. So that's very good to know, and we can double back with some more details later. But what we want to do now is we've had several states to report out. So California is one of the states that's reported out. So I want to hear from Joan, because she did that report. So if you can do an update, Joan, anything you have to add about what's going on with mass incarceration and ending the death penalty. I believe there's been a kind of moratorium on the death penalty, but I can't remember exactly. So do you have an update about California?
No, I hadn't thought, it makes all the sense in the world that we would do updates, but I had not thought about that. So I haven't looked anything up or whatever. What I do know is that as you say, the death penalty hiatus is temporary. It's not a legal thing. And I think there are efforts being made to change that. But it is something that the governor ordered. So, and I don't remember what how much long, whether it was with a particular date or whether it's just an ongoing one, as long as he's governor and doesn't change it. So I'm sorry, next time I will see about getting some more information for an update. Thank you.
Well, when we come, always be prepared for the update.
Yep, that's a good idea.
So now we'll do Georgia, North Carolina, and Vermont in that order. So in terms of Georgia, some years ago, the governor, a Republican, it was actually in 2015, he set up a ban the box executive order, and steadily over these 7 years, we have had lower and lower incarceration rates, but the state of Georgia runs 25 work camps. So in terms of prison slave labor, it is a problem. The largest work camp is here in Columbus, Georgia. So they were turning out in 2012, they were turning out 400 slaves every day. I thought I would lose my mind when I saw the trucks going around the city, not air conditioned, saying prison detail, and those prisoners sweating in those box trucks until they could get to their next stop, because they pick up the garbage, they work in the parks and recreation, they work everywhere, they clean the buildings. There's no place in the Columbus consolidated government in the city that you don't see prison labor. But because the prison population in the work camps was dropping, it got so bad that they couldn't pick up the garbage. And I was like, hallelujah, because it's just a matter of time before it ends. So now they have private contractors that they pay not enough to go around and pick up the garbage, and they're complaining. But you see fewer and fewer prisoners doing the slave labor. The good thing about the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, we're getting ready to do our second annual Fannie Lou Hamer Human Rights Conference on December 10th. And we have two parts to it. The TPNW, which will involve Patrick O'Neill and Vicki Elson and Rebecca Irby, will be leading in that. And we'll be inviting people from the Congressional Black Caucus. But the second part, let me get rid of these people. The second part is going to be a conference on ending mass incarceration, and it'll be face to face, and it's going to be with the Ebenezer Church, which will be doing the National Mass Incarceration Conference, January 11th through the 13th. So our meeting on December 10th, which will be hosted by one of our partners in the faith community. We have two Black Baptist churches in Columbus, as well as the Black Baptist Church in Atlanta, Ebenezer, and we'll all be working together. So the Baptist Church here in Columbus, which is like our Ebenezer They have a sanctuary that seats over 1,200 people. And we're going to have a small gathering of people, about 60 people, that we're going to serve lunch, but we're going to do an expungement event. So we'll be working with the Solicitor General, and we'll be working with the district attorney to expunge the records of people who have eligible felonies and misdemeanors. So that's going to be a great day because people will get their records clear. They have certain folks who aren't eligible, like they will not clear records for people with DUIs. They'll not clear records for people with murder or sexual assault. But if you've been accused of burglary or theft or anything like that, you can get your records expunged if you're eligible. And so we'll be working with the DA and the Solicitor General on that at our Human Rights Conference on December 10th. So that's all I have. So George, can you say what the update is for North Carolina? And then we'll go to Robin.
Yes, I'll be very brief. In North Carolina, a lot of our focus of late is on elections and trying to influence candidates who are running to pledge to be on the right side of things if they're elected. When that comes to mass incarceration, the person who's running under the Democratic ticket, Sherry Beasley, some of the groups that we've working with here in the Southern Piedmont area as part of the Poor People's Campaign have appealed to her to take on ending mass incarceration as one of her platform issues. She is, I would say, a moderate candidate in many ways. She's not going out on any limbs, and she does refer to criminal justice reform, which isn't exactly the same thing. So she's sort of skirting right now, skirting taking responsibility or making a commitment to us to end mass incarceration. I want to show you a graph really quick from the site that showed how many people are in prison in Michigan. This is the Prison Policy Institute website, and the Prison Policy Institute is about trying to end mass incarceration. And looking up North Carolina, what I found really fascinating is that for each state has a page like this. You can go for the page for your state. And at the end, they compare the incarceration rate to what is going on internationally using the founding NATO countries as the baseline. And of course, as we all know, US incarceration rates are crazy, and North Carolina is almost matching the national rates at 664 people per 100,000. We're at 617 per 100,000 in North Carolina. That's it for me.
That's pretty big. Dear Robin, you're next. What's the latest since that great meeting? And unmute yourself, Robin.
Well, we have an interesting woman running for governor who is very adamantly against building new prisons. And the governor, who is probably going to be the shoe-in, because you know how people are, they just always vote for the incumbent. And he's a Republican, but he's a moderate Republican, has this plan to build a new women's prison. I mean, the current one is not good, but to spend all the money to build a new one is, to my mind, not the answer. We got rid of the death penalty here in Vermont way back in 1972, and it was as a result of a federal decision about the death penalty. I don't know, other states probably have dealt with that. It got rid of, I guess, various state initiatives, and you had to decide to implement the death penalty, and we haven't. So we haven't had anyone killed in this state for a long time. And so the one question I have for you, Teresa, that was so, that's upsetting to me to know that municipalities use contract labor prisoners. Is that a common thing? Or do other cities do that? Or states?
Well, Georgia, out of the 13 colonies, was the penal colony. This is where a lot of the prisoners from the colonial powers sent folks who said they wanted to go to this new place. They were sent to Georgia, and Georgia has maintained that reputation since the 1700s.
Wow.
And so what the 13th Amendment says that you're free as a slave until you're convicted of a crime. And Georgia uses the 13th Amendment to re-establish slavery. And so that's part of our reparations work here in Columbus, is to get slavery abolished by the city that's been using slave labor. They never stopped because they always use prison labor. So you've heard the history of the Georgia chain gangs. Well, this has been, even after slavery ended, Georgia has always persisted in arresting people and re-enslaving them. So I will say there's a very robust death penalty here as well. Someone was killed by the state a few weeks ago, and Alabama, which competes with Georgia on killing people, they just gave someone a death date last week. So when they say they're going to kill you in Georgia and Alabama, they truly kill you. I have never known anybody to be given clemency in the whole time I've been here. And so people appeal to the Department of Corrections, but no one ever gets clemency. So we have a robust death penalty, and we have prison slave labor camps. So part of the reparations movement in Muskogee County, where I live, which is spreading statewide, but there are only a few places in the state that actually have this serious prison slave labor. Atlanta, for instance, you don't have a slave labor camp there. And because it's more progressive and it's majority Black with a Black mayor, et cetera. Columbus is pretty backward. But we're working at it. The one thing we did want to do is move to Massachusetts, so we can hopefully hear some good news in November. Pat O'Brien, was she here with us earlier? Well, we know that we have Donna and Pat O'Brien. Isn't Pat in Massachusetts?
Yes, she's here on Cape Cod too.
Well, I haven't heard much from people in Boston, but if the two of you could do a kind of statewide report for our November meeting, you know, it's always on the second Monday. And so that would be November 14th. So it'll be after the election. So we'll probably have an agenda item with a postmortem on the elections. But we want to focus in on Massachusetts because I lived in Massachusetts. And I remember that there was no death penalty when I lived there. And so I'd like to see if we can get a report.
Sure, we still have no death penalty, but even here on the Cape, which is an island, you have to come over bridges to come here. They do use the local prison incarcerated people to clean up the highway, picking up trash along the highway. I see that all the time. Now, I don't know if they're paid or not, so that's a good thing for us to investigate.
Very true. Diane? Unmute yourself.
Sorry. I was trying to. I went to an ACLU event, and it was Virginia event. And one of the major things was that there's no parole in Virginia. And that there was different things anyway. So that was one of the things they're working on. But I was just Googling some stuff, and it says that 800,000 prisoners out of the 1.2 million in the United States are forced to work, and they're paid from 13 to 52 cents an hour. So I don't know what the definition of slave labor is, but that's pretty much almost slave labor to me.
Well, slave labor is zero. People in Georgia are paid zero. The only people who get paid $3 a day are the people who do the sanitation work, because people who own homes have to pay to the consolidated government for the pickup of their trash. And it's a very dangerous job. As a matter of fact, one of the prison labor folks got sucked into the back of one of the garbage trucks and was killed a few years ago. So what we've been calling for, which is now happening, is that they now have the trucks that are mechanical that pick up the garbage and dump it in there, because they really can't get any workers. See, there was a big strike in Alabama last week. So all the Alabama prisoners said, we ain't going to work because of the conditions. See, the Justice Department has sanctioned the Department of Corrections in Alabama. So all the families were out there demonstrating. It was something last week in Alabama. So people are starting to resist. Eventually, we'll get a branch in Alabama, and we'll have somebody over here. We're starting a branch in South Carolina at Winthrop University. And so we'll probably have somebody to join this committee soon, because they do have serious prison labor there. So it'll be great. November 14th, we're all set. So Massachusetts. So George, I believe we're down to announcements. So let's start with Robin and the marijuana thing. I heard it, but I wasn't totally sure if it was only federal cases or if it was everybody, because there's a lot of marijuana convictions at the state level. So does that order by Biden include state level or strictly federal level?
I believe it's just federal, so it's not as extensive as you like. And in terms of announcements, I want to announce that I've just received the packet, this amazing packet. Can you see it?
Yes. What is it from?
It's from WILF US, and it's shaping the future of WILF one member at a time. When women work together, amazing things happen. So I think this is the project that that the board is working on, and you two should, and everyone here should be involved, because you're already doing most of the outreach to gain members. But this is a packet that has all sorts of stuff in it. And I just got it yesterday, and there's a meeting Wednesday to talk more about it.
It's a new member packet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, what time is the meeting on Wednesday?
8 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, because I have a meeting from 6 to 7 with my congressman. And so I'm going to stand there and get him to take a picture. Stop the war in Ukraine. I got the signs with the Fannie Lou Hamer branch all over it. And I'm going to make him take a picture.
That's great.
Good, good.
See, all of them are in town now campaigning, and Georgia is hot because of that Senate race. And so they're going to have a debate Friday, and I'm going to try to get a question asked about stop the war in Ukraine, because this concept of using nuclear weapons is just crazy.
Mhm.
So George, if you could do the announcement about the No to NATO meeting, which is happening October 18th, and if you could drop the registration link in the chat. How many
Yes.
people have already registered? You registered, Donna, you registered, Joan. Are you gonna register, Robin?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Okay,
here's the registration link. There will be 5 speakers who will represent, I don't know if they're all from NATO countries. They're from Canada and Germany and Finland and Sweden and the US. The US
and yeah,
person,
George, let me jump in because they are all NATO countries. Now that Finland and Sweden is pretty much all the way in. They're the newest members. And so they're being treated very much like NATO countries. And the little controversy that we had in terms of, we thought all of the speakers were WILF members. But as it turns out, only Ann Wright of Veterans for Peace is a WILF member, and Tamara Lawrence of WILF Canada is a member. So the WILF International Secretariat refused to say they were sponsoring it. So at the last minute on Friday, we had to scramble and get WILF US section, and Darian graciously agreed to allow it to be sponsored. So now when you see the new flyer, it says sponsored by the US section of WILF. And so we have the US section WILF logo, so we can be really proud, because the women in Finland, Germany, and Sweden went crazy on us when we called them WILF members. They're part of something a bit more to the left of WILF called Women in Peace. And the woman from Germany, Christine, she is the co-chair of the No War, No to NATO international movement. So she, when you hear what they're gonna talk about, because they all gave us a little synopsis, and it's gonna be kicking. It's
Mhm.
gonna
Okay, but let me ask, are there not good WILF speakers from Finland? Isn't there a section there and perhaps a speaker who could be on to talk on your event?
Well, Tamara, who is the first contact, see, I contacted her during the Triennial Congress, and I asked her, because I've heard her speak, and she's like so powerful, no to NATO. And so I asked her to speak on a No to NATO webinar for this month. And so Nancy Price, who works with her through the environmental group at the international level, she asked Tamara for other speakers. And the 3 speakers that Tamara recommended are these 3 women who are in Finland, Germany, and Sweden, but they're not WILF members. And because we said it was all going to be a WILF thing, we put their names out as WILF Finland, WILF Germany, WILF Sweden. Those people came back at us. I thought it was going to be the end of the world. We are not members of WILF. And so I found out later from Jenny that the Sweden person, the WILF Sweden section, got a real problem with her. So it's a lot of drama, but we didn't back down off our speakers. So they're gonna be, based on what they're doing, they're gonna be really strong. And so you don't wanna miss it, because Ann Wright is gonna talk about RIMPAC and how NATO is moving into the Pacific Rim. It's gonna be unbelievable in terms of what they'll be saying. So tomorrow we'll have the final speakers planning meeting. And so Nancy Price, George, and I will be there with all the speakers. and hopefully the woman from the International Secretariat who's going to be doing the technical work. But the key thing is that Sylvie, the president of WILF, was asked to be the moderator, but she has another commitment. But she's totally committed because NATO is moving into Africa, making all kinds of agreements with the African Union and other things. So George and I will be the moderators on the 18th because we wanted to make sure that representation from WILF members of African descent would be present in the meeting. So it's going to be a great meeting. So everybody want to register for that because we're going to make sure the chat is going to be live. As of Friday, only 55 people had registered. I envision we'll have about 150 by the 18th. So I know that most of the people who have registered so far, according to the International Secretary, are from the US because the International Secretary had not put it out yet. But over the next week, they have promised to put it out to all the sections. So all the sections in all the regions. So George, we're way past time and you're not saying anything. So are there any other announcements that we need to do before we say we'll see you on November 14th? And George has the recording. You know how we are. We don't put the recording out too widely, but all of you will get the recording, and all of the people who registered today will get the recording because it was quite an eye-opener to find out that the sections in Finland, Germany, and Sweden did not have a speaker that Tamara recommended because all of these women have worked together. So when they had the big demonstration in Madrid, the woman from Germany, the woman from Finland, and Ann Wright from the US were all there together. So they know each other. So these are women who are seriously working on No to NATO. So they'll be talking about all of that. So George, is there anything else?
No, ma'am.
Well, thank you, everyone. Sorry we went over.
Bye.
We'll see you maybe at the membership development committee meeting Wednesday night. I'll plan to be there at 8. Thank you.
Me too. See everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.